Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Velavida Candle Company. This is a candle company that I launched in the last couple of weeks. I'm excited. I noticed that one of the things that I always do when I get home was to light a candle, to relieve that stress, enjoy my time when I got home. It just really kind of relaxed me. So I wanted to launch my own candle company. I make these, they're handcrafted. Check them out at velavidacandle.com. I will put a link in the description so you can check out the website. Go and get you a candle, enjoy the relaxation of aromatherapy. And let's get started with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breathe Motivation. My name is Anthony Hester. I'm the host for this show. So glad to join you guys this week. Man, I know it's been a hot minute since I've been on here. I think October 23rd was the last date of a podcast. And I do truly apologize, but I've been working on myself. I think that's something that I always kind of get wrapped in, and I put this pressure on myself to be perfect, this perfection, right? We've talked about this before, but perfection is a big thing that can cause you to feel stuck, and in the worst way. And that's the title of this episode, is Stuck in the Worst Way. I think as we get caught up in life, there are a lot of things that can happen, but some of these things really take you back and kind of knock you out of commission sometimes. And it's rough. It can be really hard. I think a lot of the times when we're facing challenges or we see things that are going on, sometimes you can get stuck in old patterns, old behaviors. And that's something that I've happened to go through in the last couple of months. It's very, very difficult sometimes. And it's really hard for me because I'm like my own worst enemy. I'm terrible at beating myself up. I feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's a lot of, as we know, there's a lot of things we can't control. And sometimes I get caught up in the idea that I can control these things. And, if I'd done something different, maybe these things could have turned out differently. And I think that's a very, very tough and challenging thing to really go through on a day-to-day basis. And, recently there's been a lot going on in my life, personally. I always want to be authentic with you guys. I want to be able to share those things. But, since the birth of my son, I'm so happy to have my son here. But there were some challenges going through the birth and things going on in his life. He had an extended stay in the hospital. And, it was a very tough challenge to go through, with my wife recovering, my baby recovering. And it was a very hard time. And then in that meantime as well, going through close to the holidays, the holidays always get tough for me because I don't have a whole lot of close family. And as we get through those families, it's one of those things you kind of start to look at your family and you're like, man, I wish things could get better. I recently had to step away from, a family member, a parent, because, it was bringing so much trouble. I don't even want to say trouble, but it was bringing a lot of anguish into my life. And, it was very challenging to walk away. But, that's one of those things in life, is that you've got to be able to walk away sometimes to be able to really kind of refocus your life and refocus on challenges. My priorities have changed and things in my life haven't changed from the past. And that's where I really got stuck. And I think that's where we can really get stuck is, one, we can get stuck in past thinking, or we can get stuck in future thinking. We're so focused on the future that we just don't live in the present. So, man, life can be challenging, and that's the moral of the story, right? A lot of the times we play mental tricks with ourselves. And a lot of the times with me, with these challenges of having to walk away from a parent and really, get away from that situation to be able to really heal myself. And, personally, I've been going to therapy for the last 3-4 months. And I think that's something that I want to share because I don't think a lot of people, I think a lot of people think that of that as a weakness, is going to therapy and getting help. And I think it's awesome that people can go out, get help from anybody. You can have different resources, books. I've had books as, therapists as books, but I've gone to actual therapy. And I think that's a strong thing to go to, is being able to admit that, hey, I need some help, right? And I think there's such a stigma on mental health, and I think it's getting better. You hear about mental health all the time, and that's one of those things that you really kind of have to, choose for yourself. I'm not going to tell anybody to go to therapy, but I would recommend it to anybody. It'll be a challenge because it's uncomfortable, right? Sharing your past or sharing things that you may have never shared with anybody. It's very, very scary. And it can be tough, but one of the things I like about therapy is being able to work through those things, because a lot of the times that stuck mindset are things that you're focused on in the past, right? So when I talk about the past, and I've talked about this a little bit, but I've had a strained relationship with my mom pretty much my whole life, and that's why I had to kind of step away from. And I always feel really guilty. I feel really, judged upon because it's different. It's different from those things. But, understanding the backstory of things, my mom has struggled with mental health, and that's something that you can really get caught up in, right? You can get caught up in the idea, or, one of the things in my past is, and I see this on a day-to-day basis, I, I was just talking about my candle company in the up front, right? I started this candle company. I started to doubt myself, and I started to doubt myself because all I remember hearing is how bad I was, how disrespectful I am, how, I can never do anything right. And those are mental things that I have to get over. And that's why I went to therapy, was to be able to recognize those patterns in the past from, really understanding what's the truth and what's not the truth. Because growing up and hearing those negatives in your life, those can take a beating on you. And that's something that's happened. And that's one of those things that I don't want to be able to spread. I don't want to spread that onto my own son, right? I want to be able to break that cycle, because I've seen a family pattern of these, these kind of tribulations that have been going on in my family for, not just my mom and I, but also her parents. And I don't want to continue, and maybe my grandpa's parents. And I don't want to continue that cycle. So those are the things, when I start to see these patterns, right? That's where you get stuck, are these behaviors, these old patterns. You're trying to move past these things. But as you start to really focus on, when you start to refocus on your life, there's these old patterns that continue to hold you back. And I think that's something that we've really got to be able to be aware of. And one, don't get mad at yourself. You've got to be able to accept those things and say, hey, you know what? These are old patterns. These are the ways that I used to adapt. And this is how I got through those things. I used to, like I said, I've kind of told you my story of football, but I used to go to school from 7 a.m. to, 10 o'clock at night, and, wake up and do the thing all over again, because I didn't want to be home and be in an environment that, I felt stuck in, or that, I never knew what was going to happen when I got home. Not that there was a whole lot of physical abuse, but there was a lot of mental and emotional abuse. And that was something that I didn't want to be a part of. And that's kind of my way of getting out of those things. I kind of step back from those things, or I'm just a workaholic, and I start to focus on work because that's what I've known. So I miss out on a lot of present moments because I'm so focused on running constantly, and that perfectionism, and really focusing on, I know I can be better. I know I'm better than this. I'm going to, kill it in whatever thing I do, right? And those are those old patterns. I start to get stuck in those. I start to feel overwhelmed and piled on, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to prove something to my mom that I'll maybe never, ever, ever prove to her, right? So I'm always constantly trying to prove something to her when I really should be proving it to myself, and really living a life of validation through myself and not anybody else, because that's something that I've really struggled with as well. And I think a lot of people that get stuck in the past are stuck in those old ways. You're trying to validate things to other people, and that's something that you can't do. The only validation you need is within yourself, right? It's great to have support, and it's awesome. And then one of the things that I heard a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Will Smith, there's a video from him, but are you hanging around people that are going to douse water on your fire, or are you support, finding people that support you and are going to douse gas to your fire, right? That gas is what really creates that excitement within you and that passion, and continues to push you forward, right? There are a lot of people that want to hold you back, and they're going to pull you down to their level because they don't know any better. And sometimes you just have to walk away, because at that point it is abusive. It is that point where you cannot get ahead and you get stuck. And it's okay. Those things happen, right? I love my mom. I really do truly love my mom. And at the moment, the best thing to do is to love from a distance, because in order for me to be the best for myself, for my wife, for my son, I've got to be able to step back and really focus my energy into the therapy for my son, into the therapy for my wife, and being there to support them for everything that I can, while on top of that, working full time and working on the things that really I truly do care about. And I just want to tell you guys this, because I think it's important that a lot of people are afraid to step away, and it's hard to step away. And I just want you guys to know that nothing in life is perfect, and you've got to be able to accept that you are perfectly imperfect. And that's what I tell myself all the time. I am perfectly me, because at the end of the day, when I start to focus on the things that are, I could focus on all these things, these negatives that I heard, right? We wear these things as badges of honor, right? The trauma, the name calling, all of those things. I've gone through, I grew up with, 2 divorces, right? I've gone through 2 divorces with my family. My mom had 2 divorces, right? And I wear that as a badge of honor. My dad is an alcoholic. My mom has mental health issues. And these are all the things. It's a badge of honor that, oh, hey, I've made it through this far. but it also keeps me stuck because I'm not focused on being the best me moving forward. So stop wearing those things as a badge of honor. Those are things that did mold you and shape you. And at the end of the day, you've got to focus on those things to help you get better. You are better because you've gone through those things, but by wearing those things and talking about them all the time, you're not going to be able to move forward. And that's what I realized in the last 3-4 months was I'm not able to move forward by continuing to live in the past. And that's the only way to really go forward is to, accept where you're at, accept those things you went through, but don't allow your circumstances to dictate your life moving forward, because that's what we really focus on are all those badges of honor, right? And really, realistically, they aren't badges of honor. Those are things that molded you. Those are things that shaped you to help you get better. And that's only going to help you moving forward if you don't relish in that. Don't relish in the badges of honor, because at the end of the day, you are more than that. And that's what you've really got to focus on. We, as we go through our stories, we write our stories, and at the end of the day, we can rewrite that story. We can rewrite that difference. My goal is to break that cycle of that family dysfunction. And that's what I've got to do. And the only way to do that is to rewrite my story, rewrite those tracks in my head, those mental tracks that tell me I'm not good enough, that tell me I'm an asshole, that tell me that, I'm so disrespectful. I've got to be able to redefine those in my head and say, I am great. I am a masterpiece. I am perfectly me. My goal is to live authentically, to be true to myself and what I love, right? And so, throughout my whole life, I've been such a people pleaser. I want to make sure that I'm the best for everybody else, and I really and often forget about myself. And the only way to live my best life is to focus on myself, because if I live my life with intention, the people that I love will benefit too. And that's something we all have to understand. If we live life with intention, the people we love will benefit too, even more, because we're present for them. Our energy can go into them. Our energy isn't focused on things we can't change, because the past is something we can't change, right? And you've got to be able to tell yourself that I deserve to live a life of fulfillment and happiness. We all do. You get what you deserve because that's what you believe in. Believe that you deserve greatness and you will have greatness. And that's what we can really focus on. And, at the end of the day, when we focus on, one of the things that I always focus on were the opinions of others, right? I go through life, wanting to validate through other people instead of validating through myself, which is very off kilter. And those are those old patterns of thinking. But at the end of the day, when we focus on that real thinking process and changing those patterns in our head and our behaviors and doing the right thing, guess what? You're going to see great changes. And that's what we've got to be able to do. And that's what's going to make it that you could be true to yourself and do what you love. Right? Stop worrying about the judgments of other people. Stop worrying about the opinions of other people, because at the end of the day, those are just opinions, right? And one of the sayings that I love are, people are, opinions are like buttholes, right? Everybody has one. And everybody's going to have an opinion about what you do, but you've got to have that true validation within yourself to know that, hey, as long as I'm not hurting anybody and I'm doing the right thing for me and I'm putting my energy into the right things and focusing on being a great person and being perfectly me, everything's going to be okay. And if people can't get on board with that, of you changing and things going on, maybe it's time to reflect on the people that you surround yourself with again and look, hey, are they dousing water on my fire, or are they, dousing gas? Because at the end of the day, that's really what's going to change and make a difference in your life. So at the end of the day, we've got to be able to remember to focus on ourselves, because we're able to focus on the great things within ourselves. Start to focus on the good things about yourself. Are you a great person? Are you nice to people? Do you enjoy things? Start looking at all the things in your life and just do an inventory. See the people that you surround yourself with. See the things that you tell yourself, and be very cognizant of what you're telling yourself, because that's one of those things that I had to catch was, oh, here I am going down that dark path again, going down that dark tunnel of all those things that continue to play in my head. I've got to be able to change those old patterns. I've got to stop playing those mental tricks on myself, because I am a great person and I am doing the right thing for me and my family. I am prioritizing those things because that's what matters most to me. I'm focusing on the things that really do make a difference, right? So, when I start something different, I've got to be able to put my mind in a different, mindset. When I start a company, I've got to be able to say, hey, you know what, this is going to prosper. And if it doesn't, guess what? I'm going to learn a lesson and not be worried about losing, because when you focus on losing, guess what happens? You lose. And if you focus on winning, you're going to win, or you're going to learn some lessons along the way that are going to help you win in the long term. So don't be afraid to rewrite your story. Take those badges of honor off, acknowledge those things, accept that those things happen, but don't allow circumstance to rule your life. Change those things around you. Change those things that you're not living your best life. Change those things, because you can change those things. You don't have to allow yourself to be stuck. You deserve to live a better life. You deserve to live with great intention, and you deserve the best that you want. And you've got to be able to go out there and get it. So let me leave you with this quote. Growth is painful. Change is painful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. So get the heck out of that spot. Get out of that deep, dark hole that you're in, and that's by unknown. So get out of those spots. Be the best you can be. Live your life authentically, and guess what? Great things will happen, because that's what's meant to do. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate. Like my page on Facebook, Breathe Motivation. You can email me, message me on any of those. Email me at anthony@breathemotivation.com. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. And remember to breathe motivation and exhale success. And I'll see you soon. Thanks.